It's time for the DIY Chameleon guys.
Well, good morning. No, it's evening. Good evening, James. How are you doing
Yeah,
over there?
we're doing pretty good, Bill. How are you?
All right, you're back in the garage, so you must be happy.
Yeah, well, this is the happy place to be. We're at the place where my wife calls I have all my toys.
Well, good. That's a good place for them. And all right, well, let's see. Last episode, we talked about different kinds of woods and such, but we talked about kind of on a high level. And I thought now's a real good time to do a case study and actually put it into practice. So, my thought is that I've been doing this planter box cage, and that's something where I put a planter box on wheels, and then I put a 2 by 2 by 4 foot tall screen cage on top of that planter box, and it allows me to move my chameleons in the sun, into the shade, and I just move these things around all the time. And so what I'm thinking is I'm going to present to you the design that I have put together, and then we can talk about each element of that design, come up with better ways to do the design, talk about the woods, with respect to what we talked about before. And I'm going to build a bigger and better planter box cage for us to evaluate next episode.
Awesome.
This is my planter box cage, and you notice that it is a wood planter box on wheels, and there is a screen cage on top, and I have heavily planted it because that is required for having a chameleon outside. It has to get out of the sun, or else that poor chameleon will fry even
Oh,
on days you don't think are dangerous. And so, uh, but what's wonderfully fun in there is you can grow any sort of outdoor plant in these things. I mean, I've had passion fruit vines where I harvest passion fruit from these, and so it's a lot of fun to do these. Actually, what do you think of the design so far, just by looking at it?
I think they're neat. I really like the fact that you can roll them around. Um, the structure themselves, it looks like you've added some angle brackets on there and an upright so that you don't have to push on the actual screen, which adds a lot of strength to being able to move them around. I could see that if you were trying to push them around a little bit without having that on there, that you might tweak the screens.
That's a learning experience that I went through and said I can't do this, and I it was hurting my back too much to push.
Lift them up or push from the bottom, right? Uh-huh. It makes sense. It makes sense. And that's kind of how you do it. You start growing with what you're building, I think. Um, you find some flaws in what's happening, and then you try to adapt to it. Um, it. Definitely a great idea. Definitely a great idea.
All right. Well, let's take a look at how I've executed it. And what I'd like is for you to take a look at every step of the way and every part of the design, and let's figure out how I can make it better.
Okay.
Okay, so what I start off with, I need a solid base because I am going to have casters on it. I'm going to have those wheels, and those wheels need to be able to be moved around outdoors. And so I want at least 3 inch, maybe 4 inch wheels on there, and they have to be solidly anchored. So I start off with a base that has 4 by 4s, and this is what my wheels are going to go be driven into. On that base, I am actually going to put the floor of the cage. So the PVC plastic floor that comes with your screen cage, I'm going to take that out of the box and I'm going to put it on top to for that to be the floor. And on top of uh, that plastic, I'm going to make two levels of sides that are made from 2 by 6s, and so I end up with a foot high planter box on top of that. From there, I put on the casters, And then from the back, I put on these 2x3s that I'm going to use to move this cage around. And, I need them uh, substantial enough that I can do a wheelie with the cage to get it over hoses and get it
Mm-hmm.
over patio steps and such like that. And then I use fence slats, the fence boards, and I
Okay,
use
1x6.
I okay that
Yep, it's 1x6 or 1x8 for fence slats. Yep.
I just know that they are in the fence section and they got the dog ears and all of that.
Uh-huh.
and I and I uh, and I connect those on the sides, and what that does is it holds everything together. That is actually how I hold all of the from the base and the planter box sides and the what I call the handles. Those are all held
Mm-hmm.
together by those fence slats.
1x6. Let me ask you this
Okay,
question. How are you attaching the two by sixes together?
that is actually by the fence slat.
Okay. Okay.
That holds.
So it's kind of loose in the front then, I take it. Yeah.
I've never noticed it being loose in the front. In one version of this, I would silicone everything.
Mm-hmm.
In another version, I just didn't bother siliconing it and let it leak out, and
Okay.
and I sealed the wood. Now, in this
Mm-hmm.
particular case, I used polyurethane, which I learned is not the right way to do it.
Nope.
But they were all stained and sealed, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
as far as drainage, I drilled holes in the bottom plastic, and in one incarnation of this, I used PVC glue and I put little PVC spigots connectors on there, so the drainage water would go down instead of traveling along the
On
underside
the wood.
of the plastic and get to the wood.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes sense.
the question is, let's take a look at every step of the way here. How can I make this better?
Okay. Your frame I like.
Okay.
Um, the 4x4. Sure. I don't see a problem with that. Not that it's anything wrong with it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that thick when you're using a 2x material. Two 2x4s together would still do the same thing.
So you would say so replace
Just
the
stir them
four by
together.
fours by
Take
two
two
by
boards
fours.
and just take two 2x4s and put them together. Um, the nice thing about that is you could cut one of them a little bit shorter, and now you've made a shelf for the PVC sheet to sit on top of.
Then the next stage is the next thing that goes on is the plastic floor.
I don't have a problem with that, and I do the same thing. I don't use. I just poke holes in it with the drill motor.
Okay.
So I'll drill a bunch of holes in that and just make it have a perforation, kind of like you would see in the bottom of a plastic pot.
All right, and then on top of that, we have the sides of the planter box to make it a 12-inch or 1 foot deep planter box.
Deep planter box. And so for me, attaching the two boards together is the only thing I have an issue with, because there's no real way to secure 5.5 inches, screwing it through to hold the other 5.5 together. I mean, you can use some. They do make screws that are long enough, but I don't see the point in it when you can easily just buy yourself a piece of 12-inch material.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
See?
even I didn't even consider that.
So,
I suppose that exists.
so now you've just taken away a whole step, and now all you need is your base and your sides.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's an effect. That's a little bit of inefficiency there. I like that. Okay.
Okay. And the other thing I was saying is that you see how I put these two together?
Yeah.
Now I have a 4x4.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay. So if this is screwed to this, now I have 4x4. Now I've got a secure area. Those wheels will span this.
Yeah.
You put one screw in this one screw in that one. Now you have a 4x4.
Okay, I see that. Now, how can I do that? I still like having that 12-inch. Okay, but if I put two 2x4s together, that's what I get. All right.
You can also take that 2x4 and put it up underneath on the flat. Does that make sense? So I use terms like on the flat, on the edge. On the flat means holding the board this way.
Uh-huh.
On the edge is
Okay.
holding it that way. You can also do this.
Would that be strong enough? Why did I do it that way? I'm not sure why I did it that way. But if that would be
You know
strong
how to
enough
do it
for
that way.
the wheels,
Uh-huh.
then that would work.
It would totally work. It's 3.5 inches wide. Your wheels, I think, are 2.25.
But as far as okay, and then the lag bolts are the
So that's the other thing I would use. So we got these new screws. I think I have some shorter ones too. That have come out. And we're actually using these as support members in big, heavy timber framing. They're called timber locks.
okay.
And these are called ledger locks. And they literally have the screw head. See, where's the camera at? There. The screw head and a washer all built into one.
And what would that be good for?
This is good for screwing the whole
Okay.
thing together.
All right.
So you can screw this through your sides to hold your boards together. And you can screw this up through the bottom to hold your 2x to the bottom.
Okay.
They make them in several different sizes, all the way up to I've seen them as long as 18 inches. And they will tie timbers together. Okay. I've screwed 6x6 material together with these screws.
Now, one thing that I've had a problem with, because I've been doing this for 9 years now, is sometimes those, what are they called? Lag bolts, lag screws that are holding the wheels into the wood. They rot out and the wheel falls off. Is there something I can do to make that
what
better?
are you using? The trick to that is make sure you use a galvanized lag screw. Hold on a second. I got those too.
This is why we have James here.
So these are galvanized. Yeah, it's nice having a shop, isn't it? I have half the Home Depot is sitting right here behind me. So here we go. Can you read that?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are galvanized lag screws. These will never rot.
But it's the wood that rots.
Okay, so in that situation, when I'm putting these together, I will literally pre-drill a hole. These are what the screws look like, these lag bolts. These are what I hold my wheels on with.
Okay.
I will pre-drill the hole, and I will fill it up with glue. And then I use Gorilla Glue.
Okay.
Which is a little bit stronger than most other glue. So it will not allow any of the moisture that usually causes the wood to deteriorate. It'll actually seal that to where it won't do that. So if I'm using, these are 5/16, I will use a 1/4 inch drill bit to pre-drill the hole. And then, of course, we'll have the whole thing upside down. And then I'll squeeze my Gorilla Glue into that and then screw my screw in.
Okay, perfect.
Pre-drilling is really going to save you a lot of headaches down the road, because what happens is when you try to screw something this big into a piece of lumber, it's already starting to separate the wood, and you're already creating a future crack. If you pre-drill, the longevity is going to be double.
Okay. All right. We'll get into materials later. Let's talk about my big long handles. I will tell you, those 2x3s, they work great as far as functional, but as far as comfort, it is hard to hold on to because they are so close to the cage and I end up bashing my hand on the cage. So how can I make those handles better to work with?
I think it's a great idea, what you did there, and I totally get where you're going with that. And so what I would do in that situation is, since it's going to be backwards, we're kind of funny. We like them to look pretty too. So let's make something that makes it actually look a little bit nicer. Okay. And all you really would have to do is, across the top of both of those, is you just take your 2x4 and stick them right on top.
Oh my goodness.
And now you have a handle. Does that make sense?
You know what? That's why I do these episodes. Yeah, that would work great.
Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of these guys.
Uh-huh.
Got to figure out where the camera is on this thing. This is an 8-inch with the same washer head. When you drive this guy in, it's going to go really deep into the top of that piece of material. It's not going to come out.
Okay. How about if I, okay, to your terminology, do it on edge? That way I can get my fingers around it.
Well, the other way you could do that is
because I always have to be able to tip it up.
okay. So then, where your stick is coming up, you just screw it to the back of it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you've got a space 1.5 inches where you can get your fingers in there to pull back on there.
Perfect. Oh my goodness, this is great.
Okay, and we also have those same guys in little 2 7/8, and they will also work awesome. I would put 4 in each one, and I don't think you'll ever have a problem with that ever separating. I like to use a little construction adhesive in between the two of them when I put 2 pieces of material together like that. They have this stuff. It's like liquid nails, but it's called it's construction adhesive. It comes in a tube, and they sell that at Home Depot.
What's the difference between Gorilla Glue and construction adhesive?
So Gorilla Glue is an expanding product. So basically, you have to have a little bit of moisture when you put it together. If you don't, it will actually expand, and you will get almost like expanding foam on your joints.
Okay.
But it is, when you go to pull that wood apart, you're going to break the wood. It will actually, part of the wood will stick to the other wood.
Okay.
Whereas construction adhesive is super strong, but if you have to do some repairs or something down the road, you're able to get that apart.
Okay. All right. The what do we call it? The thing I use the fence slat for. Is that the best?
So I would call that a cross brace.
Cross brace. All right. I had to do that not only to hold everything together, but I really wanted to have my handles, the force of the handles be spread out through the body of the very heavy planter box body.
And I think the way you did it is perfect. The only thing I would have done different is I would have scooted it to the front and had it go up higher on the handles.
Okay.
Of course, it's going to take away a little bit of the look, but it's going to give you a lot more of a fulcrum point, which allows you to use that pivot strength to lift it up.
That makes sense.
The other thing you might want to do is make sure that your wheels are as far back on the back side, maybe not necessarily on the front side, but almost flush with the back of your box.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, when you're pulling back, you can actually put your toe on the wheels at the same time. And that's going to give you that's going to keep your wheels from spinning out from underneath you.
All right. Okay. Final 2 questions are going to be, what woods should I use, and what sealant, stain, paint, what wood prep should I do? So first, what type of wood?
If I was to do this again, I would just stay away from everything but pressure treated, and I would do 100% pressure treated lumber. I would use the 2x12 for the side. I think I would I'd make your same frame, but I would use the 2x4 on the flat.
Okay.
And then I would screw that to the bottom of my 2x12 and then screw my 2x12s together, and I'm done.
Okay.
I'm making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm making 6 cuts, and I'm ready to put the thing together.
Yeah, I will say that I have experimented with, I did one in pressure treated, one in redwood, and one in sealed whitewood. And I will say that pressure treated lasted the longest. Now, the redwood lasted many, many, many years, but the pressure treated did win out.
Yeah, the new pressure treated, like I was saying in the first episode, the nature's wood is what they're calling it. Not only does it look good, it's already got a color to it. It's not that ugly green. And I've got fence posts that I've had in the ground for almost 16 years that have not rotted out. So, and they're 2 feet in the ground.
Now, James, I am seeing in Home Depot, there's this plastic wood. What the heck is that?
It's basically milk cartons. That's how it started out. the material you're seeing, I don't know if it's actually Trex, but it's a reasonable facsimile of Trex. And basically, they've taken plastic and they've refined it to where it's super dense, and they're using it for deck boards. I have only seen it used as fence posts in a thin vinyl form, not in a solid block. You could use that. I don't see why you couldn't.
Very expensive.
It doesn't hold up. Yeah. I mean, where are you going to put the priority? Are you going to put the priority in looks? I would steer more towards a redwood and try to be a little fancy with it. If I was putting it in for longevity and still having some good looks to it, I would go with the pressure treated. If you want something really fancy that's going to sit on your deck and be a piece of furniture, outdoor furniture, then you can go with that. I call it plastic wood, but it's composite wood is what it is.
Well, I'm thinking for the planter box, I can use all pressure treated. For the cross brace, I can still use my redwood fence slats. And for the handles, that I can use the pine because my hands are going to be all over it, and that should, if I seal it and stain it, it should hold up. It's really the planter box that's going to be next to soil and have all the water going on it.
And there's no problem with any of that. It will all work just fine.
All right.
Nope.
Well, I am. Let's see, for drainage, I'll just do the holes in the bottom. Let's see. Is there anything else that we should be thinking about here?
Any of the small attachments that you have to make, if you're not going to use these kind of screws, you can also use stainless steel. And this is the new. They've come across with the way of making these screws out of stainless steel, and these never ever fail.
Okay.
So you can also use these too.
All right.
Outside of that, I think it's every part of that is awesome. I really like the way that you've incorporated the screen cage into it. It takes a lot of the extra building factor out. Making the planter box and setting the cage on top. How are you attaching the cage to the top of the planter box, or is it fitting down inside?
I am drilling holes through the aluminum frame, and I am just screwing it down.
Okay. And that's exactly what I was thinking you could do. And in that situation, I would use those stainless steel screws to hold it down.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. So I am going to go off and I am going to build this with the new design improvements. I'm going to bring it back and we're going to take a look at it.
Do you need my phone number unless you need to call me while you're doing it?
I probably will.
Just kidding.
Call you for help,
just kidding.
call you to cry. Whatever.
I'm available pretty much all day long.
Wait a minute. The Chameleon guy's on the phone.
Well, if you run into any snags, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Boy.
I'll put you on with the siren alarm. It means Bill's got an emergency.
Yes. Let's talk about, for the pressure treated section, just no paint, no anything, just the way it is, right?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I think with the stain that you put on your boxes makes them look beautiful, and I think we all want it to look nice.
Yeah.
We don't want just stick in a box,
Yeah. When I did,
so I think
when I did it with pressure treated, it did look rugged, industrial.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It does. But I like the way that you've stained those, and I do like the pine look. I just, you're going to go like this. Do you want longevity? And so another thing we can do is maybe somehow find a way of making our plants go down over the top of that pressure treated and wrapping around it and so on and so forth with some kind of vining flower. And we can make some of that disappear.
I could have a planter box on the outside.
You could. You literally could.
Oh, boy. Yeah, okay. I can think about this. I mean,
we could get crazy with these if you want to.
We could open up a little area. Oh, okay. We'll do the basic. And then next episode, we're going to come back. We're going to take a look at what we've done. And then let's get crazy. Let's decide if we were going to get crazy, what would we do?
Okay. All right. I'm all about it. I'll get some lumber and we'll get together.
All right, everybody. I'm going to get myself going, get myself to Home Depot, get some materials, and we're going to see what comes of it. James, thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Super welcome,
And
Bill.
I will get back together with you next week.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Guys, have a great
Bye.
week.